The big meeting room was full of strange creatures from all over the galaxy. Li Jun walked into the room with his team behind him. He was the human ambassador, and he had been to many meetings like this before, but today felt different. The air was thick with tension and anger. Emperor Vexstar stood at the center of the room. His body was made of crystal and light flowed through him like water. When he spoke, his voice echoed off the walls, making everyone listen. The Emperor was not happy, and everyone could feel it. Kim Hannah stood next to Li Jun. She was the human military advisor, and she had seen many battles across the stars. Her uniform was simple, but clean. She looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some had multiple eyes. Some had tentacles and some looked like giant insects, but they all had one thing in common. They were all staring at the humans with fear and anger. Dr. Park Seung was the third human in the room. He was their chief scientist, and he had helped create many of the technologies that made life better for everyone in the galaxy. His white hair showed his age, but his eyes were still sharp and intelligent. He carried a small device that could translate any language in the galaxy. The meeting room was huge, with seats arranged in circles around the center. Thousands of alien representatives sat in their seats. Each one represented a different world or species. The walls were covered in screens showing star maps and data about the galaxy above them. A dome showed the night sky with millions of stars twinkling in the darkness. Emperor Vexstar began to speak. His voice was cold and final. "The humans have become too powerful," he said. "They learn too fast. They build too much, and they spread across too many worlds. This cannot continue anymore." A creature with blue skin and 4 arms stood up. He was from the Zephyrian race. "We demand that humans stop sharing their medical knowledge," he said. "Their healing methods are too advanced. It makes our own doctors look useless." Another alien with a shell like a turtle raised his hand. He was from the Korvaxi species. "Human expansion must be limited," he declared. "They are taking over too many worlds and building cities everywhere. We cannot let them grow any bigger." A tall, thin creature with silver skin spoke next. She was from the Threnody race. "Human military technology is too dangerous," she said. "They build weapons we cannot understand and ships that move faster than ours. We must monitor everything they do." Li Jun listened to each complaint without showing any emotion on his face. He had expected this for months. Human progress had been too fast for the other species to accept in just 200 years since joining the galactic community. Humans had changed everything. When humans first arrived in the galaxy, they were seen as a young and primitive species. Other races had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They had cities on hundreds of worlds and technologies that seemed like magic to humans, but humans were different. They learned quickly, and they never stopped trying to improve things. When they saw a problem, they found a way to solve it. When they found a sick planet, they healed it. When they met a new species, they learned their language and customs. Dr. Park Seung remembered the early days when humans first got the technology to travel between stars. The other species had been kind to them. They shared their knowledge and helped humans build their first colonies, but as humans grew stronger, the kindness slowly turned to fear. Kim Hannah thought about all the battles she had fought alongside alien soldiers. Humans had never tried to conquer anyone. Instead, they had helped defend weak worlds from pirates and invaders. They had built hospitals and schools on planets that had never seen such things before, but the other species did not see it that way. They saw humans as a threat that was growing too big too fast. They whispered in meetings about human ambition and human expansion. They feared that one day humans would try to rule over them all. Emperor Vexstar continued speaking, his crystal body glowing brighter with each word. "The Galactic Council has made its decision," he announced. "Humans must accept these new rules or face the consequences." The rules were harsh. Humans could only live on 50 worlds instead of the 200 they currently occupied. Human technology could not be shared with other species without permission. Human military ships could not leave human space without special approval. Human doctors could not treat alien patients. Human teachers could not work in alien schools. Li Jun felt a sadness in his heart as he heard each rule. This was not what humans had wanted. When they joined the galaxy, they had dreamed of friendship and cooperation. They had hoped to learn from other species and share what they knew. Kim Hannah felt angry as she listened to the demands. These aliens had been happy to use human technology when it helped them. Human doctors had saved millions of alien lives. Human engineers had built better cities on alien worlds. Human farmers had ended hunger on dozens of planets. Park Seung thought about all the research projects he had worked on with alien scientists. Together, they had found cures for diseases that had killed entire species. They had developed new ways to grow food in harsh environments. They had created technologies that made space travel safer and faster. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. Your species will accept these limitations, or your people will be forced to stay in your home system forever. He said, we will use our combined fleets to make sure you obey. The threat was clear. The galaxy had thousands of warships from dozens of species. Humans were strong, but they were greatly outnumbered. If they fought, they would lose and their people would suffer. Lee Jun stood up slowly. His team watched him carefully. They had planned for this moment, but it was still hard to accept. The room fell silent as everyone waited to hear what he would say. We came to this galaxy with open hearts and open minds. Lee Jun said, his voice calm and clear. We wanted to be friends with all of you. We shared our knowledge freely because we believe that when everyone benefits, everyone wins. He paused and looked around the room at all the alien faces. We helped heal your sick worlds. We defended your weak colonies. We taught your children and learned from your elders. We asked for nothing in return except the chance to be part of your community. The Emperor's eyes glowed brighter with impatience. Your answer, human, he demanded. Lee Jun took a deep breath. We will not accept your rules, he said, but we will not fight. You either. We choose a third option. The room erupted in confused voices. No one had expected this answer. They had prepared for human surrender or human resistance. They had not thought about what would happen if humans simply left. Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. Effective immediately, Lee Jun announced. We will remove all human colonies and installations from galaxy space within 1 year. We will take our people, our technology, and our knowledge with us. Hannah felt proud of her ambassador. He had found a way to keep human dignity while avoiding a war that would destroy both sides. Dr. Park Seung felt sad but also curious. What would humans build when they were free from galactic rules? What discoveries would they make when they were not limited by alien fears? The Emperor was shocked. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were supposed to submit to galactic authority or be crushed by galactic power. The idea that they would simply leave had never been considered. You cannot be serious, the Emperor said. Where will you go? What will you do? Lee Jun smiled for the first time during the meeting. We will find our own path among the stars, he said. We will build our own future, and maybe someday we will find others who want to share it with us. The meeting ended in chaos as aliens argued about what this meant for the galaxy. None of them understood that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had driven away the one species that could have helped them reach for the stars together. As the human delegation left the meeting room, Lee Jun felt both sadness and hope. Sadness for what could have been, but hope for what might still be possible somewhere among the infinite stars. 6 months had passed since the big meeting. Captain Yu Minho stood on the bridge of his massive ship looking out at the stars. His job was to help 12 billion humans leave their homes across the galaxy. It was the biggest move in human history, and everyone was counting on him to do it right. The ship was called the New Dawn, and it was one of thousands of vessels working together to move entire human colonies. The evacuation fleet stretched across space like a river of lights. Each ship carried families, belongings, memories, and hopes for a new future. Yu Minho had been a captain for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Humans were leaving 200 worlds that they had called home for generations. They were taking apart cities that had taken decades to build. They were saying goodbye to places where their children had been born and their parents had been buried on. His communication screen, he could see reports from captains across the galaxy. Every human colony was being carefully emptied. People were working day and night to pack up their lives and load everything onto the ships. The efficiency was amazing even by human standards. Captain Lee Sora reported from the mining world of Kepler 186F. We have successfully removed all mining equipment and sealed the tunnels. The mineral extraction systems are loaded and ready for transport. The local alien government is asking if we will leave the infrastructure behind. Yu Minho shook his head. No, we take everything. Our people built those systems with their own hands. We leave nothing behind that could help those who drove us away on the farming world of Kepler 442b. Young Minsu was watching his family load their farming equipment onto transport ships. His family had been farming this land for 3 generations. They had turned a dead rock into a green paradise that fed millions of people across 3-star systems. His daughter So Young helped carry the last containers of seeds and soil samples. These tiny packages contained the genetic history of crops that had been perfected over decades. Her grandfather had developed a type of grain that could grow in almost any climate. Her father had created fruits that were more nutritious than anything found in nature. Are you sure about this, Father So Young asked as she watched the loading process. This was our home. We built something beautiful. Haraminsu put his hand on her shoulder gently. Home is not a place, child. Home is the people we love and the dreams we share together. Sometimes you have to know when to walk away from something that no longer wants youth. Aliens on Kepler 442b watched in confusion as the humans dismantled their farms. The governor of the planet had expected humans to leave some equipment behind. Maybe they would abandon some of their crops or leave their irrigation systems working. But humans were taking everything, even the soil they had created. Governor Texvar contacted the human evacuation team. Can you not leave some of your farming technology behind? He asked. Our people do not know how to grow food the way you do. Without your systems, we will face hunger. The human supervisor Jung Hinwu looked at the governor with sad eyes. We offered to share our knowledge freely for 200 years. You told us we were too dangerous to be trusted. Now you ask us to leave gifts behind as we go. We made a mistake, the governor said quietly. Can you not forgive us? Jung Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. Forgiveness is not the issue, he said. Finally, trust is the issue. How can we trust people who fear us when we help them and threaten us when we succeed? On the medical research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Dr. Choi Yun-ha was overseeing the most important evacuation of all. Her team had developed cures for 17 different alien diseases that had killed millions of people across the galaxy. Their research had saved entire species from extinction. The medical station was huge, with laboratories that could handle the biology of dozens of different alien species. Human doctors had learned to treat creatures with silicon-based blood, others with methane-based chemistry, and some that were more energy than matter. Dr. Choi Yun-ha walked through the empty halls where her team had worked for 20 years. Every piece of equipment was being carefully packed. Every data file was being downloaded and encrypted. They were leaving nothing behind that could help the galaxy that had rejected them. Her assistant Dr. Kim Woojin looked sad as he sealed the last laboratory. We could have done so much more, he said. We were close to finding a cure for the Zephyrian plague. Dr. Choi Yun-ha nodded. We will continue our work elsewhere, she said. Maybe we will find people who want our help instead of fearing it. The evacuation was not just about moving people and equipment. It was about erasing 200 years of human presence from the galaxy. Human children said goodbye to alien friends. They had grown up with human teachers, left schools where they had taught for decades. Human artists took down paintings and sculptures that had decorated alien cities. On the trade station New Horizon Merchant Captain Park, Jinyuk was closing down the last human trading post. The station had been a meeting place for dozens of species. Humans had served as translators and negotiators, helping different aliens understand each other and make fair deals. Without humans, the trade station was already falling apart. Different species could not agree on prices or terms. They spoke different languages and had different customs that often led to fights and misunderstandings. Station Commander Vexilani watched as the humans packed up their translation equipment and cultural databases. Why are you taking everything? He asked. Can you not leave some tools to help us communicate with each other? Park Jinyuk looked around the empty trading post that had once been full of life and activity. Communication is not about tools, Commander, he said. It is about understanding and respect. We tried to teach you that for 200 years, but we need your help, Vexilani said desperately. Without you, we cannot make the different species work together. Park Jinyuk was quiet as he sealed the last container. Then you should have thought about that before you told us to leave. The evacuation continued across the galaxy. Human colonies that had been centers of learning and culture became empty shells. Human hospitals that had saved alien lives shut down their medical equipment. Human schools that had educated alien children closed their doors forever. On the research world of Titan Prime scientist Dr. Yoon So-jin was packing up experiments that had taken 30 Years to complete, her team had been working on a project to terraform dead worlds and bring them back to life. They had already saved 12 planets from environmental collapse. The alien government of Titan Prime had built their entire economy around human research. The universities, the laboratories, the technology centers would all be empty without human scientists. Chancellor Mordith of Titan Prime University came to see Dr. Yoon Soo-jin before she left. "Please reconsider," he said. "Your research could save hundreds of worlds. You could help billions of people." Dr. Yoon Soo-jin looked at the empty laboratory where she had spent most of her adult life. "We tried to help," she said quietly. "We shared our knowledge freely. We worked day and night to solve problems and heal wounded worlds. And what did we get in return? Fear, suspicion, and finally rejection." The chancellor had no answer because he knew she was right. As the months passed, the evacuation continued with perfect precision. Human ships left system after system, taking with them not just people and equipment, but knowledge and hope. The galaxy watched in growing unease as the humans disappeared. The final human ship left galactic space exactly 1 year after the ultimatum. Captain Yu Minho stood on the bridge of the New Dawn and looked back at the galaxy that had been humanity's home for 2 centuries. Behind them they left empty cities, abandoned infrastructure, and a galaxy that was slowly beginning to understand what they had lost. The humans had not just taken their bodies and their machines. They had taken their knowledge, their skills, and their willingness to help others. As the human fleet disappeared into the darkness between galaxies, Captain Yu Minho felt both sadness and hope. They were leaving behind everything they had built, but they were also free to build something new, something better, something that would welcome them with open arms instead of driving them away with fear. The galaxy they left behind would never be the same. 3 months after the last human ship disappeared beyond the edge of the galaxy, strange things began to happen. The first sign of trouble came from the Nexus Station, the biggest trading center in known space. Governor Kexlani sat in his office, staring at reports that made no sense. The station that had been busy with thousands of ships every day now saw only a few hundred visitors. Trade routes that had been stable for decades were falling apart, and nobody understood why. His assistant Morkith brought him the latest numbers. "Sir, the station traffic is down by 60%. Food shipments are arriving late. Medical supplies are running out, and 3 different species are fighting over docking rights." "How is this possible?" Kexlani asked. "Humans were only 12% of our population. How could their leaving cause such problems?" Morith brought up a detailed analysis on the main screen. "Sir, while humans were only 12% of the population, they handled 47% of all trade negotiations. They managed 63% of the supply chain logistics. They operated 81% of the medical facilities." The governor's tentacles writhed in confusion. "What about the other species? Can they not take over these jobs?" "That is the problem, sir. Most species only learned to do their own specialized work. Humans were different. They learned everyone's languages, understood everyone's customs, and could work with anyone. The other species do not know how to work together without human help." On the agricultural world of Taros, Prime Administrator Vexahan was facing a disaster. The crops that fed 3-star systems were dying. The irrigation systems that humans had built were breaking down, and nobody knew how to fix them. The automated farming machines were displaying error messages in human language. The soil treatment systems were failing without human maintenance. The weather control satellites were going offline one by one. "Contact the human technicians," Vexahan ordered desperately. His aide, Culver, looked at him with sad eyes. "Sir, all human communication networks have been shut down. They changed all their frequencies and codes before they left. We have no way to reach them." Vexan walked through the dying fields that had once been green and beautiful. Human farmers had turned this desert world into a paradise that could feed billions. Now, without their knowledge and care, it was slowly turning back into a wasteland. The local Tarosi farmers tried to operate the human equipment, but it was too advanced for them. The machines required complex programming that combined biology, chemistry, and engineering in ways that the Tarosi had never learned. Chief Farmer Belther looked at the failing crops with despair. "We should have learned from the humans when they were here," he said. "Now we watch our people starve because we were too proud to accept their teaching." Similar problems appeared across the galaxy. Research stations shut down because human scientists had been the ones who translated between different species approaches to science. without humans to bridge the gap between different ways of thinking most research projects. Collapse Dr. Velinara of the Zephyrian Science Institute tried to continue a medical research project that had been started with human help, but the human approach to medicine was so different from the Zephyrian way that she could not understand the research. Notes the humans wrote about treating the whole patient, not just the disease, she said to her assistant. They talked about emotions and stress and family relationships affecting physical health. We never learned to think that way. Hospital administrator Quintal on the medical world of Healing Prime faced a crisis that grew worse every day. The hospital had been built by humans and designed to treat patients from dozens of different species. Now, with the human doctors gone, most of the equipment was useless. The medical scanners were calibrated for human diagnostic methods. The treatment protocols were written in human medical language. The surgical robots were programmed with human techniques that alien doctors had never learned. Dr. Threnko tried to treat a Corvaxi patient with a rare blood disorder, but the human medical computer would not accept his treatment plan. The system had been designed to work with human medical knowledge, and without human doctors it was just an expensive piece of metal. We are losing patients. Every day, Dr. Threnko reported to the hospital board. Human doctors did not just treat diseases, they understood how different species biology worked together. They could see patterns that we missed. The transportation networks that connected the galaxy began to fail without human coordination. Human traffic controllers had managed the complex system of hyperspace lanes that allowed thousands of ships to travel safely between stars. Captain Nexvar of the cargo ship Stone Hauler found himself stranded at a transit station for 3 days. The automated systems that had once guided ships smoothly through hyperspace were now sending conflicting signals. The Tarosi traffic controllers can only guide Tarosi ships, he explained to his crew. The Zephyrian controllers do not understand Corvaxi navigation systems. The different species cannot coordinate with each other. What used to be a smooth journey between stars became a dangerous maze of confused signals, delayed permissions, and navigation errors. Ship accidents increased by 400% as different species tried to manage hyperspace travel without human help. The banking and financial systems that had allowed trade between different species began to collapse. Human economists had created exchange rates and trade agreements that worked for everyone. Now, each species wanted to change the rules in their favor. Banker Verlek of the Galactic Trade Commission watched in horror as the economy fell apart. The exchange rates that humans had carefully balanced were now being manipulated by different species for their own benefit. The humans understood that everyone needed to profit for the system to work. He said to his staff, now everyone is trying to win at the expense of others. The whole system is breaking down. The irony was not lost on the more intelligent aliens. They had feared that humans would take over the galaxy, but what humans had actually done was hold the galaxy together. They had been the glue that made different species work as one. Community philosopher Kethmer of the Wisdom Council wrote in his journal, "We drove away the humans because we feared they would dominate us. But they were never trying to rule us, they were trying to help us rule ourselves." The galaxy had become dependent on human skills without realizing it. Humans had quietly filled the gaps between different species' abilities. They had learned to speak everyone's language, understand everyone's needs, and solve everyone's problems. Now, those gaps were showing. The different species discovered that they could not easily replace what humans had provided. They had specialized in their own areas, but humans had been the generalists who made everything work together. Emergency meetings were called on dozens of worlds as leaders tried to understand what was happening. The galaxy that had seemed so stable and prosperous was falling apart without the humans who had quietly kept it running. The most disturbing realization was that the problems were getting worse, not better. Each day brought new crises, new failures, new conflicts between species that had once worked together smoothly. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about the difference between cooperation and dependence. They had thought they were cooperating with humans, but they had actually become dependent on human abilities to bridge the gaps between species. Now, they were alone with their differences, and they were discovering that those differences were much harder to overcome than they had ever imagined. 1 year after the humans left the galaxy, the problems had grown from small troubles to major disasters. The galactic Council met in emergency session, and the grand chamber that had once been filled with confident speeches about limiting human power was now filled with desperate voices begging for solutions. Counselor Threnessy of the Vorthen Collective stood before the assembly with a report that shocked everyone. Food production across the galaxy had dropped by 42%. Medical facilities were working at only 30% of their normal capacity. Trade networks had completely collapsed in 14 star systems. Emperor Vextar sat on his crystal throne looking much dimmer than he had a year ago. His light did not flow as smoothly through his body, and his voice seemed weaker. Surely, the other species can learn to do what the humans did, he said. Threnessy shook her head sadly. Your Majesty, we have tried, but each species has its own strengths and weaknesses. The Zephyrians are brilliant at theoretical science, but they cannot build practical things. The Korvaxi are master engineers, but they do not understand alien biology. The Threnody are excellent at strategy, but they cannot communicate with other species. She paused and looked around the chamber. The humans were the only ones who could do everything. They learned our languages, studied our cultures, understood our needs, and helped us work together. Without them, we are like pieces of a machine that cannot connect. Admiral Kethmore of the Galactic Defense Force brought even worse news. Piracy has increased by 300%, he reported. The patrol routes that humans established are falling apart. Our ships are spread too thin to protect everyone. The Admiral brought up a star map showing the galaxy. Red dots marked areas where pirates were attacking trade ships. Yellow zones showed systems that had lost contact with the central government. Green areas were the few places that still had stable security. Most of the map was the human patrol system was not just about having ships in the right places. Admiral Kethmore explained it was about understanding how pirates think, how they move, how they choose their targets. Human officers studied criminal psychology and predicted where attacks would happen. Now we just react to attacks after they happen, he continued. We cannot predict or prevent them like the humans did. Our crime rates are higher than they have been in 500 years. On the mining world of Titan Edge operations manager Zulkin watched his productivity numbers fall every day. The human mining techniques had been 60% more efficient than traditional methods, but without human engineers to maintain them, the operation was barely profitable. The mining equipment was shutting down one machine at a time. Error messages appeared in human language that none of the alien workers could read. The automated systems that had once worked perfectly were now producing dangerous malfunctions. Chief Engineer Korvac tried to reverse engineer the human systems, but it was hopeless. The humans had combined biological principles with mechanical engineering in ways that none of the other species understood. They did not just build better machines, Korvac said to his frustrated team. They built machines that learned and adapted like living things. Our machines just follow simple programs, but human machines could think and solve problems. The medical crisis was becoming desperate. Across the galaxy, Dr. Velther, the most respected xenobiologist in known space, stood before the council with a confession that humbled him. We are facing medical emergencies on 17 different worlds, he said. Human doctors were not just healers. They were the only ones who truly understood how to treat patients from different species. He brought up medical charts showing the complexity of multi-species healthcare. Each species had different biology, different chemistry, different responses to treatment. Human doctors had spent decades learning to work with all of them. The other species doctors are excellent at treating their own people, Dr. Velther continued. But when a Zephyrian gets sick on a Korvaxi world or a Threnody needs surgery on a Tarosi station, nobody knows what to do. The humans were our universal doctors. Dr. Yoon Minji had been the head of pediatric medicine at the Central Hospital before the evacuation. She had treated sick children from dozens of different species, developing new techniques that saved thousands of young lives. Now children were dying from diseases that Dr. Yoon Minji could have cured easily. The hospital had her research notes, but they were written in human medical language that combined biology, psychology, and cultural understanding in ways that alien doctors found impossible to follow. The human approach to medicine was completely different from ours, Dr. Velther explained. They did not just treat symptoms. They looked at the whole patient, their family, their environment, their emotions. They understood that healing required more than just medicine. The educational system across the galaxy was collapsing without human teachers. Human educators had been the ones who could teach mixed classes with students from different species. They understood how different minds learned and could adapt their teaching methods. Principal Kex Mora of the Galactic Academy watched enrollment drop by 70%. Parents did not want to send their children to schools that could not provide quality education. The human teachers had been the ones who made learning fun and effective for everyone. The humans did not just teach facts. Principal Kex Mora said to her remaining staff, they taught students how to think, how to solve problems, how to work with others. Our teachers only know how to teach their own species. The economic collapse was getting worse as different species tried to protect their own interests instead of working together. The trade agreements that humans had negotiated were falling apart as each species demanded better terms. Economic advisor Morthak watched the galactic currency lose value every day. The humans had created a financial system that was fair to everyone. He said now everyone is trying to cheat everyone else. The transportation crisis was causing shortages of food, medicine, and essential supplies. Ships were taking 3 times longer to travel between systems because the traffic control networks were not coordinated. Captain Velkara of the merchant vessel Star Trader had to wait 2 weeks at the Nexus station for permission to dock. The different species controllers could not agree on scheduling and ships were backed up for light years. The galaxy had become a collection of isolated species instead of a unified community. Each group was focused on their own problems and nobody was working on solutions that would help everyone. Emergency Coordinator Bextalar tried to organize relief efforts for the hardest-hit worlds, but every species had different ideas about how to help. The Zephyrians wanted to send scientists, the Korvaxi wanted to send engineers, the Threnody wanted to send military advisors, nobody wanted to work together, and nobody trusted anyone else to make decisions. The relief efforts were slow and effective and often made problems worse instead of better. The most frightening discovery was that the problems were accelerating. Systems that had worked for decades were failing faster than they could be repaired. The galaxy was not just having troubles, it was falling apart. Research Director Quinville published a report that terrified the Council. The rate of system failures is increasing exponentially, he said. If this continues, we will have complete societal collapse within 5 years. The galaxy that had existed for thousands of years was dying and nobody knew how to save it. The species that had driven away the humans were discovering that they could not survive without them. In the Outer Rim territories, entire star systems were requesting evacuation because they could no longer support their populations. The infrastructure that humans had built and maintained was crumbling and nobody had the knowledge to fix it. The irony was complete. The galaxy had feared human dominance, but what they had actually experienced was human service. Humans had not tried to rule them, they had tried to help them rule themselves. Now they were alone with their fears and their pride. And they were discovering that those things were not enough to hold a civilization together. The galaxy was learning that cooperation was not just about being nice to each other, it was about understanding each other, helping each other, and working together toward common goals. Without the humans who had provided that understanding and cooperation, the galaxy was falling back into the chaos and conflict that had existed before humans arrived. The Golden Age was over and the Dark Age was beginning. 2 years after the Great Departure, the galaxy was in chaos. Entire star systems were sending emergency calls for help. The Galactic Council, that had once been the symbol of unity and order, was now struggling to keep basic services running. The most important mission in galactic history was given to Captain Nexville of the Deep Space Reconnaissance Vessel Seeker. Her job was to find the humans and somehow convince them to come back. Her ship had the most advanced sensors in the galaxy, capable of tracking hyperspace signatures across vast distances. Captain Nexville stood on the bridge of her ship looking at the star charts that showed the last known position of the human fleet. The edge of the galaxy was a dangerous place where space was thin and navigation was almost impossible. Any sign of them? Captain Nexville asked her navigator. Sub-Commander Riftal. Nothing, Captain Riftal replied with frustration in his voice. We can track their departure path to the galactic rim, but beyond that there is nothing. It is as if they simply vanished from existence. A search had been going on for 8 months. Every available ship in the galaxy had been recruited for the mission. The greatest scientific minds worked day and night to develop new tracking technologies, but humanity remained completely invisible. Scout Ship Commander Yexalani reported from the Outer Rim. I have found the remains of a human supply depot, but it has been completely stripped clean. They left nothing behind. That could tell us where they went. The search teams found empty fuel stations abandoned, way stations and discarded equipment, but no clues about humanity's destination. It was as if the humans had carefully planned their disappearance to make sure they could never be followed. Dr. Quinter worked on the research station Gamma 7, trying to analyze the human departure patterns. He had been studying the evacuation data for months, and his discoveries were disturbing. Captain, the patterns are not random, he said over the communication link. Every evacuation was planned with incredible precision. They erased their hyperspace signatures, destroyed their communication beacons, and left no trail. What are you saying, Dr. Captain Nexville? Asked I. I'm saying they did not just leave randomly, Dr. Quinter replied. This was not a retreat, it was a deliberate disappearance. They wanted to make sure we could never find them. The implications were frightening. The humans had not just packed up and moved to another part of the galaxy. They had vanished completely, as if they had never existed on the industrial world of Manufactura. Chief Engineer Belthorn made a discovery that changed everything about how the galaxy understood human technology. While trying to repair abandoned human equipment, he found something that shocked him. These are not just advanced machines, he said to his assistant. The humans built everything with hidden safeguards, every piece of equipment, every computer program. Every system has secret functions that activate when humans are not present. What kind of safeguards? His assistant asked. The kind that make everything stop working, Belthorn replied with amazement. The humans designed their technology to fail without them. They knew this day would come and they prepared for it. The discovery explained why human technology was breaking down across the galaxy. It was not just lack of maintenance. The humans had built their systems to become useless if humans were not there to operate them. Dr. Morkith of the Technology Institute analyzed the hidden code in human computer systems. The programming is incredibly sophisticated, she said. It monitors for human biometric signatures, human behavioral patterns, human decision-making processes. When these systems detect that no humans are present, they begin to shut down slowly, she continued. First they reduce efficiency, then they develop errors, then they fail completely. It is designed to look like normal wear and tear. The realization was devastating. The humans had not just taken their knowledge with them, they had made sure that their technology would become worthless without human involvement. It was a level of foresight that none of the alien species had imagined. Captain Velmara of the exploration ship Far Seeker had been searching the space between galaxies for any sign of human activity. The void between star systems was vast and empty, but her sensors had detected something unusual. I am reading energy signatures that do not match any known technology, she reported to the search command. The patterns are consistent with advanced civilization, but they are too far away to investigate. The energy readings came from a region of space that was beyond the range of galactic ships. It would take years to reach, and there was no guarantee that the signals were from humans. They could be from any advanced species. Search coordinator Kexnari faced an impossible decision. Do we send a ship on a journey that might take 5 years to reach these signals? He asked the council. The ship would be completely out of communication and might find nothing. Emperor Vexstar looked older and weaker than ever. The crystal that formed his body was cracked, and his light flickered like a dying flame. Send the ship, he said quietly. We have to try everything. The long-range exploration vessel Distant Hope was prepared for the most dangerous mission in galactic history. Captain Rothvar and his crew would travel into the space between galaxies with no support and no way to call for help. If we find the humans, what do we say to them? Captain Rothvar asked the Emperor. How do we convince them to forgive us? The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. We tell them the truth, he said. Finally, we tell them that we were wrong and that we need their help. But will they listen? The captain asked. The Emperor's light grew dimmer. I do not know, he whispered. I do not know if they will even remember us. While the Distant Hope began its lonely journey into the void, other search teams continued looking for clues closer to home. Archaeological teams searched abandoned human colonies for any hint about their destination. Deilanara had become the galaxy's leading expert on human technology and culture. She had spent 2 years studying everything the humans had left behind. Her conclusions were both simple and terrifying. They are not coming back, she announced to the emergency council session. Every piece of evidence suggests that they have moved beyond our reach. They have built their own civilization, their own future, and they have done it without us. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans were not hiding somewhere in the galaxy waiting to be found. They had moved on to something bigger and better. The final evidence came from the deep space monitoring stations that watched the edges of known space. Long-range sensors detected massive construction projects, energy signatures that indicated advanced technology and the beginnings of what looked like a new type of civilization. The data suggested that humanity had not just survived their departure from the galaxy, they had thrived while the galaxy struggled to maintain basic functions. The humans had continued to advance and grow. Dr. Deilanara presented her findings to the stunned council. The energy readings indicate technology that is beyond anything we have in our galaxy, she said. The construction projects are on a scale that suggests they are building something we cannot imagine. Are they building weapons? Asked Admiral Kethmore with fear in his voice. Dr. Deilanara shook her head. No, Admiral, she said. They are building homes, cities, worlds, maybe even stars. The humans are not preparing for war, they are preparing for growth. The galaxy that had driven away humanity was being left behind in every possible way. While they struggled with basic survival, the humans were reaching for achievements that the galaxy could barely comprehend. The search continued, but hope was fading. The humans had not just left the galaxy, they had moved beyond it to something greater. The species that had feared human advancement were watching from a distance as that advancement continued without them. Captain Nexwell stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out at the infinite darkness between the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were building a future that the galaxy would never be part of. The greatest tragedy was not that the humans had left it, was that they had left behind a galaxy that finally understood what they had lost, but could never hope to get it back. The search would continue, but everyone knew it was hopeless. The humans had found something better than the galaxy that had rejected them, and they were never coming back. 5 years had passed since the great departure, and the galaxy was a shadow of its former self. The golden age of cooperation and prosperity had ended when the humans left. Now, the galaxy struggled with problems that seemed to grow worse every day. Emperor Vexstar stood alone in his private chamber, looking at the holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. The map was mostly red, showing areas in crisis. Yellow zones marked struggling systems, and the few green areas represented places that were still stable. His advisor, Chancellor Murthan, approached with the latest reports. Your Majesty, the Outer Rim territories are requesting emergency food supplies. The Zephyrian colonies are experiencing total system failures. The Kovaxi manufacturing centers are operating at only 15% capacity. The Emperor's crystal form was dim and cracked. His light no longer flowed smoothly, and his voice was weak. How did we not see this coming? He asked. Chancellor Murthan had asked himself the same question 1,000 times. We saw humans as a threat because they were different, he said. Because they learned so quickly, because they seemed to excel at everything they touched. We never realized that their strength was not in domination, but in connection. The Emperor activated a recording from the archives showing Ambassador Li Jun's final speech to the council. The humans' words now carried a weight that no one had understood at the time. We came seeking friendship and cooperation. We shared our knowledge freely, helped worlds recover from disasters, and asked for nothing in return but peaceful coexistence. They were never trying to rule us, Emperor Vexstar whispered as he watched the recording. They were trying to help us become better than we were. The irony was painful. The galaxy had feared human dominance, but what they had actually experienced was human service. Humans had not conquered anyone, they had connected everyone. They had not taken power, they had shared it. Dr. Deilanara had spent 3 years studying the patterns of human departure, and her final report was devastating. They are not coming back, she announced to the assembled council. Every piece of evidence suggests that they have moved beyond our reach. The proof came from deep space monitoring stations that watched the edges of known space. The sensors detected massive energy signatures construction projects on an unimaginable scale and technology that surpassed anything in the galaxy. The humans had not just survived their departure, they had thrived. While the galaxy fell apart, the humans had continued to advance at an incredible rate. The gap between human achievement and galactic capability was growing wider every day. The final blow came from an unexpected source. A deep space probe that had been launched decades earlier transmitted its last message before disappearing into the void. The probe's sensors had detected something at the very edge of known space. The images were incredible, massive structures that looked like cities floating in space energy, patterns that suggested technology beyond galactic understanding, and the faint traces of human design in everything the probe had detected. Counselor Threnessy delivered the probe's findings to a stunned assembly. The humans did not just survive their departure, she said. They have advanced beyond anything we can imagine. While we struggle to keep basic systems running, they have built wonders that we cannot even understand. The probe's data suggested that humanity had not just found a new home, they had created a new type of civilization. The energy readings indicated technology that could build artificial worlds, control stellar phenomena, and travel between galaxies. Admiral Kethmore studied the military implications of the probe's data with growing amazement. They are not building weapons, he said with wonder in his voice. They are building miracles. The realization hit the galaxy like a physical blow. While they had spent 5 years trying to rebuild what they had lost, the humans had spent 5 years building something entirely new. The species that had been driven away had become something greater. Dr. Velther, the galaxy's most respected scientist, made a confession that humbled everyone. We thought we were the advanced civilizations, he said. We had traveled between stars for thousands of years, while humans were still on one world. But we were wrong. How were we wrong? Asked Emperor. Vextarter Velther looked around the council chamber at all the representatives of the galaxy's great species. We had reached a plateau, he said. We had learned to do things one way, and we never tried to do them better. The humans never stopped improving, never stopped growing, never stopped reaching for something higher. The humans had not just been another species in the galaxy, they had been the engine of progress. They had pushed every field of knowledge forward, challenged every assumption, and inspired others to achieve more than they thought possible. Without them, the galaxy had stopped growing, stopped improving, stopped dreaming of better things. Each species had fallen back into their old ways of doing things, and progress had died. The economic reports painted a picture of decline that seemed unstoppable. Trade between species had dropped to levels not seen in centuries. Medical advances had stopped completely. Scientific research had slowed to a crawl. The galaxy was not just struggling. It was regressing, moving backward toward the primitive conditions that had existed before humans arrived. The Golden Age was over and the Dark Age had begun. Governor Kexel